Daniel Lawson was used to business trips, airports, hotel lobbies, fast food, and spreadsheets. It had become his routine for the past 2 years. But on this particular night, while driving through a quiet town on the edge of nowhere, something compelled him to stop. Maybe it was hunger, maybe exhaustion, or maybe something deeper he couldn't explain. He pulled into a small diner just off the highway. The flickering neon sign said. The parking lot was mostly empty except for a couple of old pickup trucks. The building itself looked like it hadn't changed since the 80s. And there was a strange charm about it. The bell above the door chimed as he stepped inside. The warm smell of coffee and fried food hit him immediately. It was quiet, almost too quiet, just a couple of old men in a corner booth and a young couple sharing a milkshake near the jukebox. Daniel picked a seat by the window, brushing the dust off the table with his sleeve. He was scrolling through emails on his phone when he heard footsteps approaching. He glanced up, barely paying attention until his breath caught in his throat. The waitress standing in front of him was someone he hadn't seen in almost 2 years. Haley, her soft brown eyes, the curve of her jaw, the way she held her notepad, was her. But that wasn't what stunned him the most. It was the visible roundness of her belly beneath her uniform. She was pregnant, and not just a little pregnant, very pregnant. His stomach turned. She hadn't seen him yet. She was focused on writing something down on her order pad. But as she looked up to greet him with a rehearsed smile, their eyes met, she froze. The color drained from her face. Her smile dropped. The notepad slipped from her hand and hit the floor with a soft thud. Daniel, she whispered, barely audible. Daniel's mouth went dry. His mind raced, but no words came out. He hadn't seen her since the day he left for Chicago. No calls, no closure. He had just ... disappeared. But here she was. He stood slowly. Haley, what are you doing here? She asked, her voice shaking, a mix of disbelief, confusion, and anger in her eyes. I was just passing through, he said, trying to keep his voice calm. I didn't know you were here. Haley blinked several times, like she was trying to wake up from a bad dream. You didn't know because you left. You vanished. Like I never existed. Daniel looked around nervously, aware of a few curious glances from nearby tables. Can we talk? Somewhere private. She stared at him for a moment, then nodded. Follow me. He followed her to the back of the diner, past the kitchen, into a small break room that smelled faintly of coffee and cleaning supplies. She closed the door behind them. What do you want? She asked sharply, crossing her arms over her chest. I didn't know, he said quickly, motioning toward her stomach. I had no idea. Haley, no kidding. She snapped. You didn't give me a chance to tell you. You disappeared, blocked me, changed your number. Do you know how insane that was? He rubbed his hands through his hair. I know, I messed up. I got scared. I thought I wasn't good enough. I didn't know how to be what you needed. And now, she said coldly, now you magically show up while I'm 8 months pregnant and expect an apology to fix everything. I'm not expecting anything, Daniel said. I'm just shocked. I didn't think I'd ever see you again, let alone like this. The silence between them was thick. Finally, he asked the question that had been burning in his mind since the moment he saw her. Is it mine? Her jaw tightened. Yes, it hit him like a punch to the chest. He leaned against the wall, trying to process everything. Why didn't you find me? He asked quietly. I tried, she said. I sent emails. I called your old number. I even messaged your company. But I never heard back. I figured you made your choice. Daniel looked down at his shoes. I didn't think you'd want me around. Well, I didn't have a choice, she said, her voice trembling. I did what I had to do, and I'm doing it without you. I want to be part of her life, he said suddenly. If you'll let me. Haley looked away, blinking back, tears. You don't even know her yet. Then let me start, Daniel said. Please. She was quiet for a long moment before finally replying. You can come by tomorrow. If you're serious, I am. And with that, Daniel stepped out of the break room and back into a world that suddenly looked very different. Daniel didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the motel bed, staring at the same wall for hours, the cheap wallpaper doing little to distract his thoughts. The rain outside tapped against the window like a clock ticking down to something inevitable. A daughter. He had a daughter. Haley's words repeated in his head over and over. She's not a baby anymore. She's 14 months old. Her name is Lily. He'd missed her birth, her first smile, her first steps, her first words. Those tiny, once-in-a-lifetime moments, all gone because he ran. Because he thought disappearing was easier than staying, and facing his fear of becoming a father, now he had to face the consequences of that choice. The next afternoon, Daniel stood in front of a small, pale blue house tucked at the edge of town. It looked old but well kept, with flower pots lining the porch steps and children's chalk drawings on the sidewalk. His heart was pounding so hard he thought it might give out before he knocked. The door opened before he could. Haley stood there, her hair pulled back, wearing a plain t-shirt and jeans. She didn't smile. She simply stepped aside. She's in the living room, she said. Kaloran, Daniel stepped inside slowly, his eyes adjusting to the cozy space. It smelled like lavender and baby powder. A quiet lullaby played faintly in the background, and there she was, sitting on a soft mat on the floor, surrounded by crayons and picture books, was Lily. Her tiny hand clutched a blue crayon as she drew scribbles across a page. She had soft curls and chubby cheeks, and when she looked up he stopped breathing. Those eyes, they were his. She tilted her head. "Hi," she said in a tiny voice. Daniel knelt down, his voice trembling. "Hi, I'm Daniel." Lily looked at the teddy bear in his hand. "For me," he nodded. "Yeah, he's been looking for a best friend." She took it from him gently, hugged it tight, and gave it a soft kiss on the nose. "His name is Marshmallow." Daniel smiled through the lump in his throat. "That's a perfect name." For the next half hour, he sat with her. Coloring though, his hands were shaking too much to do anything more than draw uneven lines. Lily didn't seem to care. She just handed him crayons and told him he was doing a good job. It was surreal. Was a father, and this little girl, this perfect innocent child, had no idea who he really was yet. Haley watched from the kitchen doorway, arms folded. Daniel could feel her gaze when Lily finally wandered off to the hallway, dragging Marshmallow with her. Daniel stood and walked over to Haley. "She's amazing," he said softly. "She is," Haley replied, her voice unreadable. "I'm sorry," Daniel said, turning to face her. "I was a coward. I thought running was better than failing you, but I failed you anyway." Haley nodded slowly, taking a deep breath. "I was angry. I still am. Sometimes, but mostly. I've just been tired. I want to be part of her life," he said again. "Not just for today. For real." Haley looked at him, her expression torn. "Daniel, being a dad isn't about showing up with a teddy bear and playing for an hour. It's diapers and fevers and sleepless nights and daycare payments. It's everything you missed." "I know," he said, pain in his voice, "and I can't undo any of that. But I can start now. I want to earn her trust. And yours." There was a long silence between them. The sound of Lily humming from the other room filled the gap. "I don't know if I trust you yet," Haley said honestly, "but I want Lily to have what I didn't. A dad who tries." Daniel nodded, his voice quiet. "Then let me try." She sighed, unsure of her own feelings. She had spent so many nights crying, so many days convincing herself she didn't need him, but now he was here and part of her wanted to believe people could change. "All right," she said at last, "one step at a time." Daniel smiled faintly, his eyes wet. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet," Haley said, turning to grab a baby photo from the shelf. She handed it to him. This was the day she took her first steps. Daniel held the photo like it was made of glass, his daughter, arms outstretched, eyes wide, walking into the unknown braver than he had ever been. He looked up at Haley. "I won't miss the next step." The next few days moved slower than any Daniel had ever lived through. Each minute dragged under the weight of reflection, regret, and fragile hope. He didn't go back to the city. For the first time in years, emails and meetings didn't feel important. What truly mattered was a little girl with his eyes and the woman he had once walked away from. He returned to Haley's house the next afternoon, unsure if she'd change her mind, unsure if Lily would even remember him. But before he could knock, the door swung open, and there she was, tiny, bright-eyed, holding her teddy bear with a big smile across her face. "You came back," Lily squealed, bouncing slightly on her feet. Daniel knelt to her level, smiling. Despite the nerves twisting in his stomach, "Of course, I did. I promised." She held out the teddy bear. "Marshmallow missed you." Daniel's heart clenched. "I missed him too." Haley stood behind her, arms crossed, watching quietly. She gave him a small nod, enough to let him in, but not enough to say everything was okay. Daniel stepped into the cozy house, familiar now. It smelled of crayons, baby lotion, and something baking. That afternoon, he stayed longer. Lily dragged him from game to game, picture book to puzzle, asking questions in her sweet, curious voice. Daniel did his best to answer them all, even when she asked if he could draw a giraffe and ended up with something closer to a potato with a neck. She laughed anyway, and he felt something in him loosen that had been tight for years. Haley sat nearby, sipping tea, sometimes joining in, mostly just watching. Daniel noticed how she always kept one eye on Lily and one on him, as if still waiting for him to flinch or vanish. Later, Lily grew sleepy and crawled into Haley's lap, yawning deeply. Haley carried her to the bedroom, whispering soft goodnights. Daniel stayed in the living room, awkwardly staring at the children's books on the floor, unsure if he should stay or leave. When Haley returned, she leaned against the doorframe, arms folded again. "You're good with her." Daniel glanced up. "I have no idea what I'm doing. But she makes it easy." "She does that," Haley said with a small smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. He stood and took a step closer. "I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if I even can. But I want to try. I want to help. Not just with Lily, but with you too. I want to take responsibility for everything I walked away from." She stayed quiet for a long moment before finally speaking. Do you know how many nights I cried because I didn't know why you left? I wasn't asking for money or a proposal. I just wanted you to care, to at least say goodbye. I thought disappearing would protect you. I told myself I'd only ruin your life if I stayed, he said quietly. But it turns out, leaving hurt more than anything I could have done by staying. She didn't deny it, she just nodded slowly. I've done this all alone. The appointments, the labor, the long nights. But I made it, and I've raised a little girl who laughs every day. She doesn't know who you are yet, but if you plan to be in her life, really be in it. There's no room for halfway. I don't want halfway, Daniel said, his voice steady. I want all in. I know I can't earn your trust overnight, but I'm ready to start wherever you let me. Haley looked at him, searching for signs of the man who once disappeared without a word. What she saw now was someone different, still scared, but present, still flawed, but trying. And trying mattered. She finally sighed. Then we start small. No grand gestures, just you, showing up, consistently. She needs that more than anything. He nodded, whatever it takes. There was a pause before she added, I'm going grocery shopping tomorrow. She loves it, turns the whole store into a game. If you want, you can come with us. Daniel smiled, genuinely this time. I'd love that. As she walked him to the door, he hesitated on the step. The last time they stood like this, she'd been crying, begging him not to leave. And he had walked away, but this time, he turned back, looked her in the eyes, and said softly, I'll see you tomorrow. She gave a small nod. Tomorrow, outside, the sky was turning orange with the setting sun. Daniel got into his car and stared into the rearview mirror for a moment. The reflection wasn't the man he used to be. It was someone who had made mistakes, but who finally wanted to be better for his daughter. And maybe even for Haley. Inside the house, Lily slept peacefully, wrapped in her blankets, marshmallow in her arms. She didn't yet know the weight of that day or the promise her father had just made. But one day, she would, and Daniel swore she would never doubt it again.